I think you can go on and unmute everyone if you want to.
How do I mute everybody?
Hi.
Right. Hey, Daryl. Okay.
Everyone's muted.
Sure.
Once you said that right at the beginning, that
Yep.
you want everyone muted.
Good. Everybody hear me? There. Awesome. Excellent. Good.
Wow.
We're just going to, because I'm the only one that has rights to talk, you're going to listen to me. I'm just going to let everybody, we're going to carry on till probably for another 10 minutes, just to give everyone enough time to join, because this is probably the very first ever in Motorsport New Zealand, a virtual drivers briefing. So we'll give everybody the opportunity to work it out. We've had a few questions on how to get on, so hopefully everybody will be there. So there's about 18 people on so far, so we're sort of expecting about 50. So we'll give some time. So I'll wait for that one there. What's the matter?
Oh, I love it. Oh, and the face mask. Where is he? Mexico?
It's quite funny. Oh, I like it.
Everyone else is hiding.
Yes. Yes, no one likes to.
Might pay to tell them how to turn on a video, maybe.
Yeah. I think they were supposed to go on there, but I don't know if it is. So
Get them on for marketing to say, can you please turn the video on?
yeah. So for those, it's always nicer for everyone to see. We're all friends here. It's always nice to have everybody's video on, just so we can see who you are. So if you look on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's a mute button and a stop video button. Or sorry, a start video button. So if you press that start video, that'll give us a video. So we'll be able to see everybody, see everyone's smiling faces.
In a dark room, then Mortimer.
Somebody is, so goody.
You under the stairs, Andre?
What's that, mate?
You under the stairs, mate?
No, I'm in the sauna.
Yeah, maybe you can turn your video off then.
My speaker's crap on this phone, eh?
Good, okay. Yep. Yeah. So just for a point of interest, you guys, is that your Nerdette committee have been meeting on Zoom regularly, pretty much every fortnight for a few months, getting all this going. And this is how we meet and discuss things and work through issues. So it's been great to see, great to have. So you've changed world, this whole place now.
Still giving instructions.
Oh yeah. Daryl Clark, do you need instructions from a young fella, do you? That's good. Yeah, I will ask for those on there, if you could just make sure that you're muted, because you don't notice it, but there's quite a few background noises and distractions. It's a bit harder when people, like when that happens. When
what can I get? Sound.
You've got your earphones plugged in the right thing?
Yeah, I'm plugged in. That's it. Mute was off.
Yeah, so press the mute button.
You're supposed to be doing start video or
No,
not?
I don't want a video.
Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you, Brett. So again, so if you just look, Brett and everybody else, if you look on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a mute button. If you just click that, and that'll put you on mute. And right next to that is a start video button that you can do that, and that'll do it as well. So. What do you hear? Got the radio. So I'm going to mute him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it. You can do
I have the power.
that. Has everyone seen the document? Hands up.
Too many people to have their hands up. So if you look on your email this evening, you would have received an email from North Island Endurance Series, and on there is 2 documents. One is what Gary Lothrop's going to go through tonight, and the other one was the amendments to our articles to cover off, which Nick Chester will cover off a little bit tonight. But you're perfectly welcome to have a look through that. Well, you can, I'm sure you can multitask, so you can participate and read at the same time. So just have a look at that.
3 minutes.
Where are we?
All the participants on one time.
No, there's too many. I think when I was on the Franchise Association one, there was 100 participants, and it had about 4 or 5 pages of them. So.
I'll just get a picture of the front page with the number of participants. You can say 4 burgers, which was the best question, which was great.
G'day, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Nick, how are you?
Very, very well. Very well.
Give people instructions on how to use the chat room.
Evening.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it. The sound on.
Better.
Hi, Gary.
So welcome everybody. If I could just check you, get you to check to make sure your mute is on. On the bottom left-hand side of your screen is a mute button. It's just that quite often a whole bunch of sound comes through in the background, and it's distracting for the people who are trying to talk. So just please make sure that that's off, and I'm going to start. So 7:30. We're going to run this meeting like we're going to run the race meeting, which is on time. So we've got a lot to get through, obviously, just like we have a lot to get through on Saturday race day, given that we've got the invitation utes and the 86ers with us, which is all really exciting stuff, really. So because that's given us the ability to have a fairly significant TV package, which we're really excited about. So a little bit tonight, obviously, I don't know, for those who don't know me, I'm David Dovey, so I'm the president of the North Island Endurance Series. We've got a really strong network, really strong team behind us in terms of the committee, and we're doing a really good job. And I'm really happy with Speedworks, what they've done and their team. I can't just imagine how much more work this meeting has been for the team at Speedworks. They must be just ripping their hair out. It's just so much work. And I got to say, we have to really appreciate that, because without all their hard work in the background, we wouldn't be racing. So, you know, power to them, guys. So well done. So I'll put you on to Gary a little bit later, and we can all clap him virtually, and certainly behind us. So a couple of things I'm going to start off with is what's going to happen at this meeting. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to waffle on just for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to hand over to Gary, who's our race director. Gary's going to be our race director for our whole series, and hopefully going into the future, because it's really important for us to have consistency in terms of if anyone does anything wrong, he knows to penalty that person just the same amount as that person anyway, and compliment other people as well. But anyway, that's what we're trying to gate is consistency. And then what's going to happen is that I'm going to then hand over to Nick Chester. Nick Chester's done an awesome job of looking after and creating our new regulations, because they were a bit of a mess. They were copied off somebody else and then hodgepodged around. But really, we need to look after our own patch and not follow anybody else. So we've made some significant changes to the articles this year for the benefit of the North Island Endurance Series and you, our drivers. So, but there is a lot of changes, so you need to understand those. So he's going to talk through that. A couple of things. I want to thank our sponsors, obviously, Golden Homes, who have continued even through all this pandemic, with everything that's happened, have continued to make sure they sponsor us. The other one is, of course, Murphy Buses. Todd Murphy's continued his sponsorship, even though his business must be hurting as well, given it's in tourism. Also, Lance Hughes from Hamilton Asphalts. Again, these stalwarts of our sponsors have done an awesome job. Also, Futura Trailers have come on board this year and sponsoring the 1 hour. So that's really great for Glenn. He's always been around, and obviously now he's in the position to do that. He's obviously selling quite a few trailers to you guys, so he loves us, which is good. And obviously our tyre suppliers, Michelin and Rex Harris from Harris Race Radios, and Race Brakes. Sorry, Aaron, if you're here. I should have said that earlier. Anyway, I want to carry on. So one of the things we'll do is on the bottom toolbar, down the bottom of the screen, you'll see a chat function. And that chat function you can do to anybody. And what I'd like you to do is, if you have any questions, I would like you to put that, click that chat function and put your questions on there, and we'll answer that a little bit later on. You can see there's a bit of chatter there already, which is really good. So the last thing I want to say is that thanks for you guys for who entered early. It's really important that you guys enter as early as you can, because by entering later, it just makes our job a lot harder. And believe me that you can ask Gary and his team how hard the job is, because as it knows, it's really hard. But getting your entries in earlier and get your documentation and your paperwork in earlier just makes it so much easier. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on now, and I'm going to get on to Gary. So Gary, if you unmute yourself, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Dave, and hi everybody. Rachel alongside me here, who's been powering away for days now on all of this paperwork. I hope you guys are about as excited as we are, which we really are, that we're actually finally going to get so close to having a race meeting that we're going to make this thing happen. The world has changed. We all know that. To change with the world, and probably one of the things that's been really good for us and the team at Speedworks is this has given us an opportunity to have a go at trying to do meetings in a different way to what we have, because for all intents and purposes, for all we know, this could be the norm for quite some time to come. So I guess Thank you to those that have been working with us. We hope everybody will understand the situation that we're in, and it's going to be critical throughout this whole event that we all work together as one team. As I said, things will be different, and we've just got to accept that fact. There's nothing we can do about it. If we want to run a race meeting, we have to do it in a different manner and way that we have before. Critical for anyone that has entered, that has not sent their documentation through to Rachel yet, you're probably going to get the phone call you don't really want tomorrow.
Well, actually, I'm still stuck at about 4 o'clock this afternoon,
Yeah.
so I'm still getting there.
Yeah, so we do want to get all that processed, and the reason that we're doing this is that obviously there's going to be no physical documentation at the event. Everything is going to be done electronically pre the event because of the contact and physical distancing, etc., that we've got to work with. Likewise, with your crews, you must make sure that you register all of the crew names or get them to do it themselves, their name, phone number, and email address. This is probably the most important thing of all, because if we don't have that information when they arrive at the gate, doesn't matter who they are, they won't be allowed into the venue. That is our contact tracing basis. And for us to get this meeting up and running through the Ministry of Health and also through Motorsport New Zealand's Back in Motion, that is mission critical that we have the details of every single person that enters the venue. You'll also notice in the supplementary or further supplementary regs in the little video that we made for you, the zoning side of things is going to be different to what we're used to. We're all used to going to the race meeting, going and socialising with every man and his dog at the race meeting and having a good, well, not the dog because they're not allowed there, but you know, a bit of socialising with everyone. Unfortunately, we can't do that anymore because what that does is start to cross-pollinate zones, and we've got to stick with the zone areas that we've got because we are limited to 100 people per zone, and as you can well imagine, we will have in the vicinity of 500 to 600 people on site during the event. So for us to make sure we're covering the government requirements, we need to make sure we stay in our zones. So look, enough of that. I think you've read most of the bits and pieces. You will have had sent to you this afternoon, you've been emailed the driver's briefing notes. I'm just going to basically go through a couple of points in there that I think are quite relevant. A lot of those points in here you'll have seen before, so we'll get straight into it. One of the key things is going to be the competitor relations officer. Now, as you know, at any event, when you've got an issue with something on a sporting side of things, your first port of call is a CRO. The CROs will not be roaming around. The CROs will be in an area, in an office area that is not able to be gained access to from anyone in general. So if you have any queries or any incidents that are happening during the event, Keith Williams is the dedicated CRO for the endurance series, and his phone number is on this document that we've just sent out to you today. You need to text him. That's how the system starts. The reason why we want you to text him is because we then have a record of the time that you approach the CRO. And as you're all aware, there's a time limit on certain things for making contact with a CRO if you've got an inquiry or something similar to that. So once you've texted him, he'll then get through the procedure with you of whether it becomes a telephone conversation, a text conversation, an email, or he may need to meet with one of your crew. So we'll work our way through that, but just in the first port of call, a text is going to be essential. The event schedule and timetable, we pride ourselves at Speedworks at running events to a timetable and sticking to that timetable that we've got. It is our intention for all of the 1 hour and 3 hour sessions to ensure that they start at the scheduled time that is on the schedule you've got for your further supplementary regulations. And we will be doing our absolute utmost to make sure that happens. Paddock movement in the assembly area, pretty basic stuff there. Just remember that we'll be giving you a call up nice and early just to let you know that things are happening. Most of you are coming out of garages, so for all intents and purposes you can stay in your garages till the time comes, but we will give you plenty of warning when we want you to get ready to come out onto the circuit, because we want to release you from the pit lane at the appropriate time to get the sessions up and running. one important thing that we will be doing for your race sessions, or your 2 race sessions, should I say, is we will be releasing you from the pit lane 3 minutes before the scheduled time for your race start. The reason behind that is that we want to ensure that if it's a 1 hour race, we want you to get 1 hour of racing. We don't want you to get 3 minutes or 4 minutes of shagging around getting to the start of the race. We want you to start the race and then give you a full hour. So we will be calling you up at least 3 minutes before to get you released onto the circuit to get underway. Just on the start procedure, both your races are rolling starts. What we will be doing with the rolling start aspect is we will be releasing you from the pit lane. You will then do a full circuit, traverse of the circuit itself. You'll pass the start finish line. As you go past the pit lane exit on your second lap around, you'll pick up the safety car just prior to turn 2. The safety car will obviously have its lights on. We want you to start to form up and behind the safety car there. We want you to stay in your 2x2 position. The safety car will turn its lights off, usually just after the dipper, and it will start to power off. As you well know, the pole car then sits in the speed zone of between 70 and 100 Ks. You all stay in your 2x2 position till you come up over the top of the hill. The moment you see the red lights extinguished, you are racing. There's no control line. You're racing when it comes to a race start. So the reason we want to give you kind of not stopping you on the grid and giving you pretty much 2 laps of formation is to get heat into everything before you actually start. So just get that very clearly. Keep reading that through because that's the way we'd like to work it for you. Control lines, safety car and red flag lines are as per the diagram and map on the back. Pit lane speed, you're all well aware of that. Trackside pits, one thing we have done is we've included 2 diagrams in the briefing notes now for you. The first diagram, diagram 1, is quite critical and important. There's 2 control lines that we want to make sure you're well aware of when you get to the circuit, and you'll see those particular lines as per the diagram. The yellow line, which sits pretty much in line with the garage door, what that means is anybody in your crew, etc., that's in that garage, they can stand up to that yellow line. They cannot cross that yellow line. They must stay on the garage side of that yellow line. The only people that are able to cross that line would be your pit crew team, who, as per Article 21, who have registered as your pit crew team. When the time comes, they would cross that yellow line and they would stay on the pit garage side of the red line until your car arrives. Once your car arrives and becomes stationary outside your pit garage on the track side of that red line, it can be right up next to it, but on the track side of that red line, it's at that point then that the crew can move over and start their work on the car. So we just need to make sure everyone's very clear on that factor, that the yellow line is only to be passed by the people that are actually going out to do the service. Also on the back of the garages, you'll see that in the diagram, there's a concrete strip that runs through the back. We don't want any vehicles or anything protruding or left on that concrete strip. That concrete strip must stay clear during the entire event because it's an emergency egress area. So once again, quite critical on that. I think the rest of the pit lane stuff, I think you're going to understand fairly clearly. We just need to get our heads around those lines, and you'll see once you get to the track, you'll quite clearly see it, that when you come into the pit lane, there's the fast lane, then there's what's called the merge lane, which sits in between that, and then that red line determines the far side, let's say for a word, the pit lane, the pit garage side of the working lane. Circuit specific requirements rather. One of the things we really wanted to point out is the good old pit lane entry at just past turn 10. That diagram really tells you everything. When you look at that diagram, you'll see the dotted white line, diagonal line that goes across the circuit. That's the critical line. So in the first 2 pictures where you see it's acceptable, yes, you can cross the yellow line, but as soon as you get to that white dotted line that goes across, you cannot have any wheel whatsoever across the little bit of the white area there. So it's pretty clear, and what you got to remember is they actually get a really good view of that up in race control, and the last thing we really want to be doing is putting penalties out for that. But there is a reason for having that there, and that is obviously the safety aspect of someone slowing down to 40 k's to come into the pit area. Red flag procedure, same as normal basically. So if it's in practice or qualifying, you'd return to your pit area. If it's during racing, you would return in single file. You would return to grid position 15 and 16 and line up in single file so that we can juggle you around where we need to before we get underway and restart. I also just put in a quick summary of a safety car restart per Schedule Z. So again, just have a read through that, quite self-explanatory. So the safety car, when it's ready to come off or be withdrawn, we will give you over race radio that information. So we will say, next lap safety car will come in. And the other critical part is when the safety car lights go out, we will put that over race radio that the lights have gone out, because we have had occasions where it's been a wet race and you can't actually physically see. If you're further back, you can't see the safety car lights, but we will tell you when the lights have gone out. Just remember, once they have gone out, weaving must cease. The cars then just stay in their single line or file system, and the lead car sets the pace. There is no limit to the pace. The lead car can set the pace at whatever they wish, and there is no passing or overlapping until you've passed the control line. So that is the difference between a standard race start and a safety car restart. Is on a safety car restart, you need to pass that safety car control line before you can actually progress from there to a passing manoeuvre. So hopefully that's all clear. Have a good read through Schedule Z, because that will sort of put you into date with what's going on there. Blue flags, I just popped that in because obviously in the 3-hour race and possibly in the 1-hour race, I'm sure there will be some lapping going on, or lapped cars. Just a reminder, if you do see a blue flag, it does indicate that during a race, it indicates that you are about to be lapped, and it is regulation that you allow the lapped car to pass you, but only at the appropriate or safe time. Mechanical failure, simple stuff there, guys. If something happens, get off the track as quickly as you can. The off-track excursions, once again, if you do go off the circuit, try not to bring crap onto the circuit when you come back on, and please ensure that you safely rejoin on the circuit. And remember, if you do end up shortcutting, you must readdress that straight away. Fuel and waste oil, again, fairly explanatory. Most of you have been to Hampton Downs, so you're aware that that is there. The withdrawal side of things is a little bit different. So if you are withdrawing from the event, you won't really be able to go to the race office or race secretary's office. All you'll need to do is either text or email Rachel and just tell her that you are withdrawing from the event. And the reason we need that information is if you've withdrawn after qualifying or something like that, we may need to rearrange the grid positions. So just keep us up to date on that if you could. Results will be through the Speedworks app. We're not doing hard copy results for this event for obvious reasons. And we will also be emailing results to the series coordinator. So the series coordinator can then obviously email those through to the competitors if they wish. Pit paddock and parking, a couple of things there. Quite essential that if you've got a covered-in trailer or a transporter, we have, because of this COVID condition that we're going through, we have had Hampton Downs agree that we are able to have those vehicles parked behind the pit lane garages. So they will be getting parked up behind the pit lane garages. We ask that they're neat and tidily parked, and we ask that you please follow the instructions of the event staff when it comes to the pack inside and getting those vehicles in there. We still need to keep that concrete strip clear on the other side of, or on the front part of where your vehicle would park, because that forms part of the assembly area for the other support categories. So you will have the opportunity to park behind the garage, which is absolutely fantastic. Let's make it nice, neat and tidy. And the idea of that is to eliminate you walking out of your zones. So you're still staying in your zone to get to where you need to get to. We're doing, so if you've got an uncovered trailer, we need that to go down into the trailer park, and the vehicle that you drive to and from the circuit each day, that vehicle needs to park down in the main car park at the other side of the skid pan where the loose metal gravel area is, and then you can just walk from there up to where your vehicle is. So we want to eliminate too many vehicles in that area, but the way it's working is going to work quite well. Finally, the contract suppliers like Michelin, Pirelli, etc., race radios. What we want to do there is, again, we have to try and eliminate physical contact with those people. So what we've arranged with them is that they will be, the tyre people will be set up next to the toilets behind the pit lane block, just next to the skid pan. They'll be set up in that area there. When you are taking wheels or tyres to them, please just use one crew member. Let that crew member take them over to them. The tyre suppliers will have a location that you put the tyres that you want work done on, and when you come back to pick them up, you'll pick them up from the same position. So that way there's no contact whatsoever, and there's no cross pollination for a word in a zone. Likewise, for race radios and race brakes, we will have them positioned so that you'll be able to know where they are, but when you need them, you need to send someone to them as opposed to them coming to you. So once again, pretty self-explanatory on that.
Jeff's already answered.
Yep, so no, that's good. Look, at this stage, that's all from us. As I say, we've been absolutely snowed under trying to make all this thing happen. We've still got more work to do. We're on site from tomorrow, but we're really excited to make this thing finally come together, and we're just hoping everyone will have a really good race meeting. And please, if you need anything, our contact names and phone numbers and emails are there, and we're happy to help out. That's it from us.
Well, there's a question there. So what if you have multiple cars? Is it one person per car for tyre delivery?
All we want to do, yes, so answering that question on the tyre delivery side, if you've got multiple cars that you're looking after, you still just need, all we want is, we don't want, say, 3 crew members bringing up one set of tyres, if that makes sense. So every tyre delivery that goes there, it only really needs 1 crew member to go, because that's all we're trying to do, is eliminate people moving around. And the easiest way to do that is just dedicate 1 person to take tyres up, and it could be a different person that takes them up next time, because that first person might have just about died of a heart attack. I don't know, but just let's work our way around trying to eliminate too much movement in the paddock area. There is obviously food vendors at the site. The food vendors will be using the same standard COVID practice that's used everywhere in New Zealand at the moment. So they will be insisting on social distancing of 2 metres. They'll have their Q code there for you to scan their Q code when you get into the area where the vendors are. And yeah, just no socialising, but you know, we can all still live with it. We've just got to live with it in a slightly different way. But yeah, that's it from me. I'll mute now.
Dave needs to unmute.
All right, I'll try again, eh? So thank you very much, Gary. That was awesome. And I think that makes it clear. I think what they're saying is you're going to be pragmatic about it, you know? So, I mean, sure, you could rip holes in our policies and our processes and saying, oh, well, we're going to be in this area, and then you're going to mix in the toilets, or you're going to mix in the tyre places. Look, you just got to be pragmatic about it. We got to start from somewhere. This is all new territory for everybody, and I think we just need to be patient and have a pragmatic approach about it, and be positive in nature rather than negative, because there's a lot of people done a whole bunch of work for no return, they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. So we should be applauding them, not giving them stick. So just a couple of things which I'll ask Gary to comment on. But just from ours, so after the race, very, very important, this was the most important thing, which is about trophies, which is what you're racing for anyway. So at the end of the race, for both the 1 hour and the 3 hour, we would like all cars, with the exception of the overall winners, first, second and third, to return to their pit bay. So we'd like to come down pit lane and disappear off into your pit lane. The 3 top cars, we're going to keep the first, second and third overall, we're going to keep in pit lane, and so they can spray a bit of champagne and treat the TV and do it and be interviewed and everything else like that. So we can't have everybody on pit lane, which I'd like to, but it's just not going to work. So only the top 3 cars, everybody else back to pit lane. Karen and her team will drop everybody's trophies because we'll know where you came. So they'll come and drop the trophies into you. So just the top 3 cars. I also want to talk. Okay, so the other thing is that, Gary, I'd like to ask you about mask use. Mask use.
Yep, done.
Yeah, so you just beat me to it then, Dave, because one of the things I was just about to mention again, which I forgot on the earlier part, is the usage of masks is highly recommended. Our team, look, we're going to wear masks. We don't particularly like wearing masks, and they're a pain in the ass when you've got sunglasses or glasses on, but at the end of the day, we're all here to try and make this thing work, and at the same time, we're all here to look after each other. We don't know, we will never know until it happens, and we hope it never does, that no one does come to the event not knowing that they perhaps have COVID, and then the next minute we've spread it on and we've become the arseholes of New Zealand because we've put everyone back into level 4. That's the absolute last thing we'll ever want to do. So we all must do our bit to try and make this thing work. Dave, you are right. At the end of the day, at the end of the race, we do want to see that those top 3 cars in the area there. Please don't all the crews come running out into the area as well. Unfortunately, we can't have that. And just be aware if we're doing TV coverage that there's no hugs and stuff like that, because technically that's not supposed to be happening in the current situation we're in either. So yeah, we just got to, as I say, we just got to think about things a little bit differently, and we'll make this thing work.
Unmute.
Unmute myself again. Thanks, Gary. That's awesome. Hey, now look, and I can see there's some questions, and there's probably going to be a whole bunch of questions about pit garages and everything else. I can see some people, while Nick's talking, who'll be talking next, I'll have a look at those questions and I'll try and answer them, or I'll get somebody who is relevant to answer them later on. So I want to hand over to Nick Chester at the moment. Nick spent hours and hours on our articles, and he's done a really good job because they were a bit of a mess. And I know that people will say that they're not perfect, and you're probably right, they're not perfect. It's all new ground, but you know, we all need to work together, because at the end of the day, we all want to win the race or the class. Understand that. We're racing for chocolate fish at the end of the day, but the thing is that we just need to be pragmatic about it and look at these articles for the intent that they are written. So if anyone wants to listen on intent, come and see me, and I'll tell you what we're trying to achieve here. But so Nick, I'll hand over to you. Yep, Nick, go for it.
Marvellous. G'day, everybody. Thanks. I'm very jealous you'll get to go racing this weekend. My car's in a million bits, and I'm not going to be going round and round, unfortunately. But I thought I'd just go back to our AGM last year, where we made a couple of big decisions to change the way that the pit stops work. So the aim was to try and improve the safety and try and reduce the amount of pit crew that we needed to take to the track for this. So I hope that we've achieved that. I think we've done a pretty good job with what we had to work with. So obviously the first one was breaking up the fuel and the tyre changes. So you don't have your and the reasoning behind that was you don't have your tyre guys working right next to the guy that's pumping 120 litres of fuel into the car. So that was a big one. So we've split that up. And of course, being able to do that means that the guys that are doing the fueling can also do the tyre changing. And we've also reduced the amount of tyres, tyre guys and wheel guns that are available. So it's I think it's worked out pretty good. I think it's going to be a much safer pit stop. and it's going to be it should reduce the amount of guys required. So obviously we've got the 3 people who are during the fuel phase, as we call it, is the dead man and the refueler, and the fire guy. They have to have the full fire kit on. So that's the socks, the shoes, fire suit, gloves, balaclava. And then we have obviously the guys that are doing just the driver assist during the fueling phase. They don't have to have the shoes or the safety goggles. So we've just we've ramped up the safety gear required for that. And then of course during the tire changing phase, once all the fueling's done, those guys all have to have more fire gear than what they used to. And the main reason that was just purely because there could be people still filling their cars around the around when they're doing tires. So it's yeah, hopefully we have just made some amendments today. Bulletin's just been put out so that the original articles had people in twin layer suits minimum. Now they can go single layer suit and FIA or SFI approved full length underwear. So that should make it a bit easier. Apparently a few of the racewear companies were running out of stock. So yeah, we've made a change to that. So I'm available. Give me a call if you need to. Any questions? I've had a heap of phone calls over the last few days with queries. So hopefully the articles are clear. And if you've got any queries, feel free to give me a holler.
Awesome, Nick. Thank you very much. So there is a couple of questions I'll get you to stay on there. Is that, and either this can be answered by either Nick or Gary. So I've got one which is, so we don't have a pit bay garage when we're out by the utes in the gravel area. Where do we pit during the race? Will we have a pit garage we'll be in front of? So that's a question for probably Gary.
So the way I understand it, I think there's possibly 4 to 5 cars that will be not in pit lane garages or directly behind the pit lane or behind the pit lane garages. By the way, you're not on gravel, you're on tar seal, which is nice. However, you need to work out, and you probably need to buddy up with someone that's already running in the series. So I guess the way of looking at it is if you're in the 1 hour and you're pitted outside, you'll be able to find a position in front of the 3 hour cars that you'll be able to use in the pit lane, and vice versa. If you're in the 3 hour and you're not in the pit lane garages, there's no reason why you won't be able to find a location in front of a pit garage of a car or cars that have been running in the 1 hour. I think it's just a little bit of jiggling around there, guys, to make that work. Do you agree on that, Nick?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So that's about all we can do on that side of it. I did just see one question that came through before in relationship to crews out on the fence during the race or out on the pit lane wall during the late race. You are entitled to 3 people. However, those 3 people would need to be the ones that are registered through your Article 21 during an endurance race to be crossing out of the pit lane garage. So you can't have people in your pit lane garage that are not part of the pit stop crew going out onto the fence to watch the race from the fence line, is the way I'd clearly understand the regs.
Yeah. So I've heard a few comments about people going, oh, Jesus, why do these people need to be in fireproof gear? So this all probably stemmed from a video of somebody on fire. And the thing is, just because you're a car controller doesn't mean to say you're immune for somebody who is in a pit garage next to you spilling fuel, the fuel igniting and then rolling you away. So we've done it from a safety perspective. I mean, the small amount of cost that it would cost you to use underalls, make sure your crews have flame-proof socks, and versus the significant damage that you would do to somebody if they catch on fire. I mean, the chances of it happening are very, very slight, and I completely agree with that. but the consequences of that are enormous and life-changing. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why we've made the change. And I understand it's going to cost teams money, but I think it's our responsibility as team owners to make sure that we keep the volunteers that are racing our cars safe. And so I think that's what we need to do. So, I got a question down here. It says, do you need underwear on 2 or 3? So you can either use just a 2-layer suit, still need socks, still need gloves, still need balaclava, or you can just use your usual, single layer. But you have to, if you use a single layer, you have to have on the underwear. So hopefully that answers that. I don't actually have a lot more. I was expecting a few more questions and we haven't got them. So that means we've been very thorough in our documentation. I don't see any reason why we should keep you here for a long time. Unless there's anything else, anything anybody else wants to bring up, stick it on chat now. Otherwise, I think we can all go and really look forward to Friday morning and out and about and get those cars on track and do what we love doing.
Exactly. One final thing from us, Dave. Just to everybody, reiterating the way you get into the venue on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, especially Friday and Saturday. So Thursday pack-in will be from 1600 or 4 o'clock till 6 p.m. That is the set time. We can't go in before 4 o'clock. The reason behind that is that the event has already been, or the venue, sorry, has already been hired out to someone else. And once again, we can't cross-contaminate. So those people have to come out from the end of their day before we can actually go in. So we've clearly made it 4 o'clock till 6 p.m. Friday morning is going to be quite chaotic at the gate. We can imagine that it's going to be that case because everything's different and we have to register and get ourselves in. So what we're suggesting is that we've got the gates opening at 7 o'clock. So between 7 and 9, we're going to have a vast percentage or a full percentage of our staff and crew on board to get you processed and through as quickly as we can. Please be patient with us. And you'll also see when you get to the venue and come into gate 1, you'll find cones have been set up with separate rows. There is a separate row, we understand, for 1 hour and...
No, just for the Neredeck
right,
cars.
okay, so for the Neredeck cars, there is a separate row. So what you need to do is get into that row. When you get to speak to the human at some stage, you'll have a mask on. What you need to be able to tell them is your car number, class and car number, and then they may ask for your name as well. That way we can check everything off nice and quickly and get you into the venue as quickly as we can, because that's what we want to do. We don't want you sitting outside. We want to get you into the venue, but we have to do it properly.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Gary. I'm just going to pop on to another one, which is about clarification about safety equipment in pit lane. Everybody in pit lane that's part of your crew has to wear fireproof overalls in the manner I've just described, either a twin layer suit or a single layer suit with underalls. They also have to have fireproof socks, and if they're, and also, hang on, sorry, bear with me, and a balaclava. They must wear socks, gloves, and balaclava. That's everybody, including the car controller. But for the people that are actually in charge of fuel, which is the dead man, the fire marshal, and the refueler, they must also have, raised boots on, and they must have also safety goggles. They're talking about safety goggles. I chatted to Mike McCready from Motorsport New Zealand today about what constitutes a safety goggle, and he's fine with those just plastic safety glasses. The object of it is if fuel splashes and it splashes in somebody's face, then that will give a measure of protection for the eyes. So I hope that clarifies that one there. I am going to actually unmute, if you don't mind, Paul or Barge. I'm going to unmute, ask you to unmute, and just because you're talking about bullet point number 22, and you had a specific question. Do you mind asking that question? So you're still muted, Paul. So bottom.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now.
Good. Excellent.
Thank you, David. So the bulletin 22, as it's written, stops after about 4 or 5 lines, but it still mentions the 3 people that are allowed across the line. But the original article goes on and talks about for multi-studded cars with multi-studded wheels, you're actually allowed a 4th person that can help with the tyre change but can't touch any other part of the car. So can you just clarify that the bulletin actually means 3 or 4 with multi-studded wheel cars?
So Nick, do you mind if I ask you to clarify this one? Because you give a really good understanding of what it is. So it is a bit complicated, I know. So yep, go.
Yeah, so that's the rest of the sentence actually carries on in that particular article. It's just this, you see the little inverted brackets there. So the rest of the article carries on as it is written in the normal articles. It was just that one excerpt that they put in there about the people's extremities crossing the line, which is the change.
Awesome.
So let me tell you why we put that in. Is could potentially somebody could drive into the pit area and straddle that line, that red line, and then they could have, in theory, then we thought, well, maybe somebody could think that they could actually have more people working on that on the car because they're behind that line, and that's what we're trying to head off. So this is about the intent. So we're just trying to be really clear. But you're right, Paul. For those cars who have got multi-stud wheels, you're allowed 4 in the tyre change. For those who have not got single wheel nuts, then you're only allowed 3. Correct? Good. Okay, so another one is, sorry. Gary, there's somebody's asking about working on the car. What happens if somebody has a bit of a failure on Friday night and they want to work later at night? Is there any accommodating that?
Yeah, look, we want to be as realistic as we possibly can, but what we do have to do is shut the venue down at 6 p.m. every night. All I'm going to say is if someone has got a genuine reason for wanting to stay a little bit after 6 p.m, please make contact with us and we'll see what we can organise.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Next one, we have another one about guiding your pit, your car, your hot-headed driver as he comes blasting down pit lane, doing 39.999 kilometres an hour. How do we guide them in? So is there any? Because what used to happen is somebody used to go running out and wave their hands out to bring them in. Gary, can we still do that?
So what you do when you're guiding them in is your car control. That's part of your car controller's job, and he would be standing outside of the yellow line on the edge of that red line, guiding your person in. I believe that's enough of a guiding area to bring him in. He doesn't need to be standing out in the fast part of the pit lane. I'm quite comfortable with the fact that they could do that, certainly, because that red line protrudes out a reasonable way from the pit area itself. And I don't think your driver will have totally forgotten where he's going. I'd like to hope not.
And this is what I love about endurance racing and dealing with a whole bunch of cool people like yourself. One of our teams has said, "Oh, I've got a garage nearby. If anybody breaks down and needs to work on their car."
I'll close the other side. I'll close 2 sides.
Sorry, somebody's muted. I'll find out who they are and mute them in a second. But they've said that they can use that garage. So if any gets in that situation, come and have a chat to Gary or myself and Karen, and we'll direct you to that person. Should I mention who it is?
The other thing, David, I will just add to that is that we are staying on site as security overnight. So that does help with what that earlier question was asked about. So as we've said in the regs, there is no ability to overnight camp at the venue. However, we are acting as security overnight. So, look, we want to work with you all, but at the same time, we're trying to work around these restrictions that have been thrown at us. and somewhere in between those two, we'll come up with a plan that'll work for everybody.
And just further to that, what we're talking about signalling your hot-headed driver as they come blasting down pit lane. You're saying if there's already a car in pit lane, they're a bit hard to sight, because if there's one in the pit, there's a car parked, you know, in the neighbouring one, he's beyond, so you can't get beyond there to signal your driver in. How pragmatic are we going to be about that, Gary, and just say, well, if there is, race out, wave them down, and are we going to? What do you think?
It's a difficult one, because the way we're going to look at it is that we've got to look at what's written down on the piece of paper, and what's written on the piece of paper is quite clearly what's written there. So if someone wanted to be anal, they could actually have a fairly good case to put forward. Logics kicks in, but at the same time, we've got a set of rules. We've got to work with that set of rules.
So, Gary, a question, can you have somebody on the pit wall directing them in?
If one of those persons was one of the crew in the Article 21, no reason why not.
So anyway, that could be an answer to it. The next one is, somebody says, make a fluoro sign and wave it. that'll do. That'll do. Just one thing I want to talk about is on the Friday we've got something a little bit different. Is we've got some category racing. So we've got quite a few cars in this event, which is fantastic. So what we don't want to do is the first session in the morning is that every single car that's there, it tries to get out the racetrack and will disappoint people. So what we've done is broken the first sessions into times. So if you look at that, and I mean, it's going to be, we're just trying to split the field a bit, you know. So if you think you're going to do that time, you know, it's 109, I think it is. So if you think you're going to be slower than a 109, stay to the other, go in the 109 session or less than that. If you think you're faster than that, go in the other session. So it's that's all written in the schedule, so you should be able to see it, and that will hopefully they split it. If there's not as many cars as we think, then we'll open up pit lane. But we're just giving ourselves a little bit of ability to be pragmatic about it and not have to worry about people, too many people on the track at once. So, and disappointing because we're calling people in. So, okay, team, I think that's about it. And I think we've answered everything else. If I've missed anything, please feel free to email me, ring me. If it's more to do with Gary, email Gary and Rachel. If it's about technical things, you can email Nick Chester. So once again, I want to thank you all very much for coming. And
just one tiny little final thing. I know we've got these finals after finals, but another thing that just came to mind. We did put a part in there about socialising at the end of each day. No problems having a beer once the event is finished, but not in a group format and not with a barbecue and 40 or 50 people around it. I got asked the other day, and quite rightly, if a team is using a small barbecue to make their lunch through the course of the day, not a problem. However, we just can't have socialising at the end of the day where there's a group of 20, 30, 40 people around a barbecue eating and drinking. So that's just clarification on that. That's it. Promise no more today.
Sorry, I've just got somebody just come back again, another one. Just talking about this whole, okay, so it says here, apparently this is one for you, Gary. If you put somebody on the pit wall, you can stand there, but then the pit stop rule says you must not cross the red pit line until the car comes to a stop. If you are on the pit wall, you have already passed the red pit line.
Yeah, being pragmatic about it, you still are entitled to have a crew member on the pit wall if you need a crew member on the pit wall, and we would look at it in that respect. Let's not make it as complicated as it needs to be, but the only thing is that we wouldn't want to see a rush of people as a pit stop starting to occur with people going and standing out on the other side of the red line, not noticing a car that comes in or a car that comes in, brakes fail when it, you can see where we're coming from. It's quite clear. If supercars can do it, I'm sure you guys can without too many hassles whatsoever.
Yeah, you've heard it from the boss. So that's awesome. Well done. Okay, guys, I think that's it. So we're out. We'll see you all on Friday. Obviously, there's not going to be a Friday night social, which is a bit of a shame, but we'll see you all there. There was about 73 or 74 people on here tonight. So thank you all very much for taking the time and listening to us, and we'll see you Friday.
Bye.
See you later, guys.